Good evening, folks. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 9th business meeting of the Lewiston School Committee. And agenda item number 1 is the Pledge of Allegiance, and our student representative is going to lead us. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, agenda item number 2 is the consent agenda. Are there any items that members want removed from the consent agenda? Ms. Quartermash?
The minutes from, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the date here, our last meeting do not reflect the executive session that was added to the end of the meeting.
Okay, anything else? Mr. Jensen?
Mr. Chair, the minutes from the August 22nd, 2019 meeting, just at the bottom for the motion to adjourn, it just doesn't say who made it.
Let's hope we remember. All right, any others? Oh, you do? Who was that?
I made the motion.
Oh, okay, that's a start.
And then it was seconded by Mr. Shannon.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Roy. Any other consent agenda items that need to be noted? All right. So, remind me, we can make those, we can approve those with the amendments. Okay. Is everybody good with that? All right. So the consent agenda will be adopted with the changes. Okay, agenda item number 3 is public comment. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to make a comment to the school committee? Thank you. And agenda item number 4 is a report from our student representative.
All right. So it's great to be back for another school year as now a senior rep. And just have 2 things to report out tonight. And the first one is the first week of school went great for both new and returning students. Blue Crew on freshman orientation day did great, helping out students, getting from class to class, answering questions. And also the Aspirations program at LHS is having a college trip to Colby and Thomas College on September 17th for anybody who's interested. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any questions of the student representative? Ms. Ray?
Do we have a junior representative joining us at some point?
All right, and the representative remarked that that was in the process. He didn't have his mic on, so I'm trying to be really good with mics, so feel free to yell at me if you don't see my red light on. Okay, agenda item number 5 is to receive and approve a field trip request from Lewiston High School to travel to New York City on April 20th, 2020, and teacher Jenna Nelson is going to present.
Good evening. I'm Jenna Nelson. I teach band and orchestra at the high school, and we are planning a trip for the spring, April 3rd through 5th. We've traditionally in the music department had a trip every 2 years, and the goal of the trip is usually to perform and also have some educational experiences that they might not get locally. So we arrange for a clinic at a college where they perform and get feedback from a college professor. We'll attend some Broadway shows. We're planning a jazz concert in New York City, and also some cultural attractions, museums, that sort of thing. We book through a company. This year we're using World Strides, and that company includes some safety features and insurance benefits, and medical care coverage, that sort of thing. So some extra precautions that we take. We take a coach bus. We're planning about 50 students and 4 or 5 chaperones. One of our chaperones is here with us. Aaron, as you know, worked at LHS, and he's still the drama coach, so he knows some of the students. Do you have any questions for me?
Ms. Roy?
Those trips are fantastic. I know my daughter went on
too, because it's every other year, and it's fantastic for the students and a good experience. My only question is, why isn't this trip ever planned during April vacation? Because students miss time. It's usually like right after April vacation, so I'm glad to see that it's spread out a little bit more, but is there any reason why it isn't part of a vacation time so students don't have to miss more school?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the main reason that we don't do that is a lot of students travel other places for the vacation, some of those students have different families in different locations, and we don't want to cut into family time that they would have, especially if they're, traveling between different homes. Um, and yeah, that's really the biggest reason, because not as many students can go if they already had some other kind of thing planned for that break time. So we are planning on, we would be missing 2 days of school, so that is like the trade-off.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Jensen?
Move we approve the field trip.
Jensen, seconded by Ms. Quartermarsh. Any questions or comments to the public? Back to the committee? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Agenda item number 6, to solicit and approve the nomination of a school committee representative and alternate to the delegate assembly of the Maine School Board Association, and Superintendent Finn will present.
Yes, so there will be the need for a delegate to participate and an alternate in the assembly for the Maine School Boards Association. Believe that Monique Roy has volunteered as the delegate.
That's what I heard as well.
Nomination process. So, do you want me to say
Please,
a little bit?
please.
So I'm already on the Maine School Board Association, and we had a big conversation about this weekend. And last year I went as our delegate, and I was brand new to the process, and I was going to be elected onto that board. And so what I learned is that because I am immersed in all of these meetings all the time, going as a delegate last year, I got a list of this stuff. I presented it to you, but I really didn't know what was going on. So this year I have a better understanding. So that's why the delegate goes and represents the resolutions that the Maine School Board Associations as a whole wants to put forward. And then we decide as a board how we want to vote. So I'll be sending those out, those resolutions out that we just got Saturday, to you folks to look at, to give me, or whoever the delegate is, feedback so that we can vote in the session. I will also be sitting now on the board, but I can still vote. I had to clarify if that was a thing. So again, that's sort of the idea behind what the delegate assembly is. It's about the initiative for Maine school boards for the year. Any questions, you can go ahead and ask.
So it's my understanding that Ms. Roy is interested in being the delegate, and Ms. Whitlow is interested in being the alternate. Are there any others who wish to put their names up? All right, then I'll entertain nominations. Ms. Quartermarsh.
Can I nominate both of them as, are we handling them separately, or? Okay. I would like to nominate Monique as the delegate and Tanya as the alternate.
Okay, we have a nomination, and that was seconded. I think that I think that's appropriate. And just one last call for any other nominations. All right, all in favor? And 2 abstentions. Thank you. Sure.
So the fall conference is open to any one of us that wants to go. The keynote speaker is addressing generational poverty, which is a topic that we have been discussing as a subcommittee and then as a whole. It's 2 days. You don't have to go for the whole thing. If you're interested, I would email Sue Turgeon. I think the sessions are going to be released within the next week or two, so you can look through and see if there's anything that you think would be beneficial to bring back to the group. But there'll be more to come on it. I encourage anybody who is interested to attend.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Okay, agenda item number 7 is to discuss our participation on the Regional Service Center Board. And I believe Bobby Avery is going to present to the committee.
I am. So, as we know, we belong to the Great Falls Regional Service Center, and we had a discussion last year around participation and whether or not we would have a board member sit on that board. And we decided that we would, and so Tina Hutchinson was that board member. Now that she is no longer with us, we're back to that discussion as to whether or not we should have another board member sit on that board or not. So that's what this discussion is about for this evening.
Fill us in on the current makeup of that board outside of our participation.
Yes, so that board currently, it's 4 of us. It's Lewiston, Auburn, it's Poland and Turner. There are no other board members that actually sit on that board. It's all made up of superintendents. There's myself that I was asked to be the executive director, which I get to hand that off to Superintendent Finn this year. And then we have the business manager from Auburn that sits on that board. And so we are missing one member. So we do have to decide, is it going to be a board member or is it going to be myself that's a voting member? Because you can do that if you'd like.
Ms. Roy.
I'm going to address this to Mr. Jensen. Didn't we have a vote saying that we would only opt in if we had representation from the board? It wasn't that your stance on it, and we kind of decided that was the direction we wanted to go. So are we obligated now because we voted in some way to do that? Like, meaning there isn't an alternative. We have to have somebody.
Yes, so that's what this board would have to decide, is if you want to continue down that path or do you want to change that. So you'd have to make a decision on whether or not you want a board member or if you would like to have somebody else act on behalf of the board on that board. Yes.
Ms. Ray.
Similar process question as to Ms. Roy. Is it something that the entire regional service center has to vote on to change the rules for, or is that we have to submit our decision and then they have to vote on it?
Yes, so this board would go ahead, and my understanding is that you would make your decision on that. We would then bring that to the Great Falls Regional Service Center Board. We would let them know what this board has decided, and you could do a nomination yourself. We would go to that board, and then we would do the nomination at the board level. It's kind of the same process with the executive director. We have to go before the board. Right now, I'm the executive director, but we'll go before the full board, and we'll hand that baton off to Superintendent Finn. They'll vote on that affirmatively, I'm sure of it, and we can move forward.
Ms. Ray.
Thank you. And my second question was the activities of this regional service center. I know we were presented with ideas about consolidation of purchasing power for food services and maybe weather services. Are those the actions being taken by the RSC currently?
Good question. So there's specific activities that we have to do, well, we can choose from within certain categories. When we decided to get involved into this regional service center, we did what I consider to be the bare minimum of what we needed to do to keep our subsidy. We are meeting, I think it's the 19th, don't quote me on that date, but at the end of this month to discuss our goals for this upcoming year. I can tell you that the activity that we've done over the past school year has to do with school safety and security, all 4 districts, around reunification. That's one item. Another item that we submitted to the DOE was our substitute calling software, our system, that was denied. And Bill had submitted an appeal, and they denied it a second time, so that was too bad. So the business manager in Auburn and myself, we kind of scurried really fast, found another item that would satisfy one of the categories, and that was our milk bid. So we got together and we did a joint milk bid. Pretty cool. That was awesome. And then another item that we do, and it's just little, but it's the weather, and so we utilize the same weather person. And like I said, in a couple of weeks, we'll sit and determine what our goals are and some ideas for this school year as well.
I'd like to make a quick comment, and maybe we can have more discussion. You know, I had a concern. One, I think this idea of a regional service center makes sense. But from the outside looking in, it feels like it's constantly this group's goal to do the bare minimum to get the subsidy, or however that's described, that money sent. And I think we're missing an opportunity to truly save the taxpayers of this community some money by looking for hard things to try to consolidate and really bring savings home to this district. So I'm going to support this idea of continuing what we do and placing another delegate there. But I really hope, as a group, they can really target big ticket items, or try to.
So to that, I couldn't agree with you more. I met with Deb LaJoy at the state level probably maybe about 5 weeks ago, where I was handed the executive director role. I said I better figure out how to do this and get brushed up on that. And I met with her at the DOE, and we talked about that. And it really is important that we figure out how we can save money as a group, and so that will be discussed in the next meeting and subsequent meetings to come. It's not as easy as it would appear, as it would look, but that doesn't mean that, I mean, we got to try. We got to try really hard. And doing that milk bid was just, dipping our toe in the water, because there's probably a lot of other things that we could be doing that's in a joint way. Adam and I, Adam in Auburn, we're currently having discussions around electricity and solar power, and how we might be able to consolidate, if anything, on our electricity usage. So we are having those dialogues outside of the group, which then will bring that back in and have a full group discussion.
Thank you, Bobby. Ms. Ray?
The only other comment I was going to make was that I would be in support of keeping a board member there. I feel like that's the space where we can bring in some innovation ideas, especially as I'm thinking about ways to group our purchasing power and maybe using that regional service center to get more local food into the schools as well, because we are all in the same area. That might be a way to use it, but I would be in support of continuing to have a board member participate.
Thank you. Ms. Roy?
I apologize for having missed this and not asking for it ahead of time. If it would have been in the packet too, because I know there's some guidelines about opting in, opting out, November 1st or some deadline like that. And I feel like each time we've discussed it, it has been this idea only around the subsidy, and then we're only going to opt in under certain conditions. That's been this board's stance. And so I don't think we've had a good review of where we are in the process of that document. Are we supposed to vote again in November to stay in? So I would really like to dig deeper into what our commitment is, what it means in funding, yes, but then how long are we voting for this to stay in, and then really getting some ideas together to do it.
So as far as the deadline is concerned, I'm not aware of any deadline. I'm also equally not aware that that a board has to renew every year. My understanding is that it's rolling, and that if we want to opt out, that's a different discussion. And I don't know the guidelines around opting out. So if you want me to get those, I certainly have no problem looking into that and getting that. I can tell you that for this fiscal year, by belonging to the Regional Service Center, we are receiving $366,752 of state subsidy. Last year, we received $191,576, so it was increased quite a bit just by being in the Regional Service Center. That money we would lose. That money would go away if we opted out. So I personally feel that by maintaining the Regional Service Center and doing exactly what Mark had said about really delving into how can we save even more money through this process, I think that this district could really see some great benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen.
Sure. Yeah, if I remember right, the deadline that was in the agreement or charter, I forget what it was called, says if you want to leave at the end of the school year, you have to apply in November the year before, and everyone else on the board has to agree with it too. So I remember the first year we said that if I think a compromise was having a delegate, one of us be a delegate. Although I don't think that person was elected. I think they were just selected, which we probably should elect if they're actually a delegate representing us. But I remember, I think one of our compromises was that if we don't amend the charter by that following November, then we would decide to opt out. Then when it came down to that, I think we missed that deadline. We were told that other superintendents in the agreement weren't interested in revising the document, which in my opinion was written terribly. It was given no approval by school committee. We didn't see it until we were asked to be approved, and I'm pretty sure that's every single board that's a member of it. So to me, the charter, the agreement is still very flawed, so I'd still very much like to see that changed. I'd like to see more delegates from other districts, of course, because it's hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars that are being decided by people who aren't elected by any taxpayers except for the one of us that serves on the board. And that's just not a really good system of government, my opinion. My concerns was that it was a risk. I'm glad to say I was very, very wrong. It's certainly not worth leaving if we're going to lose the money from. So I'm very happy to stay a part of it, maybe change the charter, the agreement a bit. But I'm very much in favor of having one of us be a delegate to the board, if that helps at all.
Ms. Quartermash.
Thank you. I just have a question for Bobby. I remember that the funding we were going to get was supposed to go up from year 1 to year 2. Is it expected to stay flat now, or do you not know that information?
The funding as the Regional Service Center, it significantly went up. Yes. Oh, you mean next year? I don't know. That I don't know. And I'd like to address what you just said, Luke. I want to say I was a little apprehensive last year when this board chose to put a board member on the Regional Service Center board. I have to report back, and in truth, it actually worked out really great. That contribution that our board member made was a really good one. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. And so you're right. Last year we decided to have a committee member, but then the superintendent chose which member, and I think that caught us by surprise. But I don't recall the vote, how that came out, who chose the delegate, and I'm calling it. There was none. Okay. Do you have any input on how we choose a committee member, if that's the direction we end up going in?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank Bobby for such an eloquent description of what's going on with the Regional Service Center. I'll be honored to be able to take that off Bobby's plate so Bobby can focus on what Bobby does best. And that being said, I'd also be honored to sit next to any board member on that particular committee. I do believe that, Luke, you're right on point there. More should. We can't control that, but we can with this. And I would certainly be wide open to this school committee selecting on their own who would ride shotgun with me in these meetings.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any committee members interested in serving in that role? Luke has had a passion on this as well. Oh, but That's right. Yeah, disregard you. Yeah, okay. So it has to be a member who, can it wait? Can it wait till after the election or not?
Um, well, as we vote as a board, not this board, but the Great Falls Region, the Service Center Board, will be down a member. So if we could get a member on, because we're going to be, like, as an example, my hope is that at the next meeting, we'll be able to vote for the new executive director. And so Lewiston will not be represented during that time. So any vote. So the next meeting is not the 19th, it's the 27th, Friday the 27th from 1 to 2. It's here, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Jensen couldn't meet those obligations, but Miss Ray is indicating that she possibly could. I think you already said you could, just for the record. Okay, so Miss Ray is interested. Miss Ray is enthusiastically interested in serving in this capacity for at minimum the next 3 months, but possibly further. Miss Whitlow.
I would like to nominate Miss Ray for the Regional Service Center board member.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? All right. Thank you.
Board, could I just add one last thing? I just
Yes.
want to remind this board that Lewiston does receive a nominal amount of $5,000 as to be the fiscal agent of this group.
All right, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Ray, for stepping up on this one. Okay, agenda item number 8, report from the City Council representative. Miss Ray.
Thank you. So I had the pleasure of serving on a hiring committee for our continuous school improvement coordinator position. I want to thank Chief Academic Officer Karen Paquette for extending that invitation, and all the members of that committee who moved some names forward to the superintendent for a final round, or maybe not yet. I don't know the timing, but it's happening. And so that was a really great experience. And I feel confident that that position is going to address a lot of the needs that this committee has in terms of advancing policy with the rate data, but also as we spoke for 6 hours today, will really help Lewiston stand out among the state. I thought a lot about my work with the Maine Education Policy Research Institute and the data that they're trying to collect and address through grant funding at the state level. And every time I have a conversation with them, we always have to, and we should be thinking about the state needs, which are very different than Lewiston's needs. And so I think this position will start to address that. So I'm very excited. The City Council meets in workshop tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Normally during workshops, public comment is not allowed. However, the mayor and councilors have heard that folks want to speak on some of these issues. So if you want to come speak, you're welcome to. We'll be discussing possibly banning all smoking in city parks, nursery schools in residential zones. We'll be reviewing our draft marijuana ordinance and reviewing our draft rental registration ordinance. We also meet for real voting meeting next week on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? If not, we'll move to agenda item number 9, and that's the report of the school committee chair, Joyce. So I have more of a question than a report for you folks. So we typically start our meetings at 6:45 p.m., and I just want to see if there's any interest in moving our regular meetings up to 6 p.m. No? I'm throwing it out there because I think, you know, one, everybody knows I like to get to bed early, but but that's besides the point. Uh, More importantly, we have staff here sometimes. Now, we've done well keeping our meetings in check, so I don't think this is an important issue, but I did want to throw it out there because Ms. Whitlow.
Yeah, I mean, I like starting at 6. When I see that we're starting at 6:45, I'm like, oh, I'm drinking coffee before I come to the meeting. But I saw some people that were like, oh, no, because they might be coming from further distances, so or not be able to make it. So I'm just curious what you guys have to say.
What would we do if we workshopped?
You know, we start the workshop at 6 and our meeting would start immediately after the workshop.
I don't have a problem with that.
And I'm only suggesting if we really have an interest in doing it, then I suggest we put it on an agenda item. But if one person is not in favor of this as a committee member, then, you know, I think that'd be challenging. Ms. Roy?
I'd be in favor of that. My reaction was because I thought you just wanted to go to bed early.
I stayed up till 9 o'clock last night. I just want everybody to know that. All right. All kidding aside, do we want to put that on an agenda item? Okay, thank you. So that's it for my report. And agenda item number 10, report from the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank the school committee for all of the guidance and support over the course of my first couple of months here. Truly, you were in the best interest of all learners in our district, and that's something that's greatly appreciated. I'd like to bring to the attention of the school committee the new format of the superintendent's report, which was emailed out. That will be posted to the school's website and sent off to our partners at City Council as well. Want to go ahead and just reiterate the phenomenal job done by Chief Academic Officer Karen Paquette in assembling the interview team, and that team came up with the interview questions today for the board-supported the Continuous School Improvement Coordinator position. 2 candidates will be brought to the executive leadership team later on this week, and we'll conduct the second round from there. So we're very excited about that. The school year is off to a tremendous start. That being said, would love to add a student presentation to the beginning of a board meeting, beginning on the 23rd, our next board meeting. A brief, less than 10-minute presentation about something innovative going on in our school district. First up may very well be our folks from the robotics team, or possibly our computer education program as well. So hoping to be able to start off our board meeting with that. That being said, Lewiston Listens, which we talked about during the entry plan phase, will begin on the 19th. That will be held at Lewiston High School. As a reminder, that's where I'm going to be getting all kinds of qualitative data from our community partners. That will be at 6:30 in the multipurpose room at the high school. And finally, Genius Hour is something that we launched literally today. Genius Hour is an innovative team approach to a driving question. And the way that works is I send out the driving question on a Google form, and there are 15 slots available for anyone in the district who receives that email to sign up. That form was filled up in less than 10 minutes today. The driving question for September 26th will be, how can Lewiston Public Schools bring an equity mindset to our district? And very, very quickly it filled up with 15 folks who are chomping at the bit to bring not only research-based answers to that question, but also with the understanding that we're going to share whatever we come up with in that hour. That question changes each month, and we're looking forward to our October Genius Hour as well. So great way to give our community members and our teachers and educators a little bit more of a voice, and to be open-minded to the geniuses we have out there as well. So that's what I've got.
I think that's fantastic. I was so excited when I read that today. As you're speaking, I'm thinking, is there any opportunity to get students involved in the driving question and their feedback?
Absolutely. So you stole my thunder already for the next meeting, but small group is really important to this administration, meeting with small groups of teachers, community members. And so we will be asking our friends who are our learners in our district to help us form a superintendent's advisory council where I'll be able to sit and meet with our middle and high school students around similar driving questions, mostly to do with culture and climate in our schools, because truly their voices will have a major impact on moving forward.
Just a fun FYI that there is a storytelling event called The Corner that happens in Lewiston that will be occurring on Thursday night, and I will be telling a story. So if you would like to join, it's at She Doesn't Like Guthrie's at 6:45 p.m. This Thursday. There
Thank you.
is also a barbecue next Thursday for Healthy Neighborhoods. I don't have all the details in front of me on that though, but I can share with the school committee.
Very good. Thank you. Any other announcements? Ms. Roy?
So I'm pretty excited that Ms. Parks and I are going to be going to a collaborative and proactive solutions summit in November. And it is, details here, diversity and collaboration come together, which kind of goes with the theme of your driving question.
And if, so do you think maybe you could present an agenda item at a school committee meeting to go over that? And I'm sure you'll have some input though. I do want to thank Ms. Parks for bringing that to the attention of the school committee, because immediately Ms. Roy was interested, and I know you have a passion as well in that area, so thank you. Okay, agenda item, any others real quick before I go on? Okay, agenda item number 12, future agenda items. Any committee member have a suggestion for future agenda items? Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an update on the nurse at Connors. Just, yeah, by the end of the month.
Maybe just an update on Connors too in general to add to that. Yeah. All right, thank you. Agenda item number 13, to enter into an executive session to discuss food service manager's contract in accordance with Title I, Section 405. Do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Roy, seconded by Ms. Ray, and no comments. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, we'll be in session. We will, yeah. Okay. Thank you.